Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. As you can see there, I am CakeMail's Director of Deliverability. It's a difficult word to say. It's also very it's interesting way to make a living. There's not a lot of formal training out there to do what I do. A lot of it is hands-on. I've been with CakeMail for over 15 years now. And prior to that, I worked for Campaigner, both ESPs in the space, email service providers. I was 2 years with them. And prior to that, I worked for Bell Sympatico, which is probably one of the largest ISPs in Canada. So, a little over almost 20 plus years in email, both on the sender and receiver side of things. So I've been on both sides of the equation. So I definitely can say that I'm familiar with the receiving side of things. So I'm very empathetic on their with what they do on a daily basis. I mean, they need to obviously think about their users. They're going to go somewhere else if they're receiving too much spam. So it's up to them to make sure that doesn't happen, and it's up to me to make sure that doesn't happen on the as far as CakeMail network is concerned. So a lot of what I do is training, coaching members on doing the right thing. Obviously, if you're here today, that's a big part of that. It's a step in the right direction. There's a lot of rules when it comes to getting your email to the inbox. So, listen up, sit back. As Isabel said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them during the presentation or after, or it's why our emails are listed here. If you, want to think about something after, feel free to reach out to us as well. There's also support at cakemail.com, which will go to our general customer service team. So let's dive right in quickly here today. I'm a little under the weather, a little foggy. I've been fighting a bit of a chest cold for the last couple of weeks, so bear with me. If I go off topic, Isabel will bring
Bring
me
you
back.
back.
So I'll bring you back. Yeah. So yeah, 7 steps to successful email delivery, to deliverability. They're both pretty much the same thing. This is based off a blog post that we did in 2022, Isabel, I think, last summer, I believe. We also did a one of these webinars last year. We kind of do them around this time of year because, as Isabel said, the volume tends to increase with Black Friday and the holiday season and Christmas and Cyber Monday. So there's a lot of marketers out there will ramp up their volume. Though a lot of them might do some mistakes along the way as well. They tend to do stuff this time of year that they don't normally do throughout the year. So hopefully this webinar will educate you in the right direction to maybe not make a few of those mistakes. And, if you're on CakeMail's network and you do something wrong, you'll probably be hearing from me. One of my jobs is to deal with those problems, delivery problems and blacklistings, very timely this time, in November with, like I said, the increase in volume. There's also a few things I want to discuss with regard to authentication and what's coming out in February. There's a huge change with regard to authentication that's coming out in 2024. So I want to discuss that as well. But we'll get back to the email delivery thing on what you guys need to do with regard to getting your email to the inbox. So I just kind of brought things down to, as basic as I could possibly do for with regard to email marketing. 7 steps. Obviously, we're going to go through these quickly, and then I'll dive into each one with a little more depth in the coming slides. So, number 1, big purple number 1 there for a reason. Assemble the right list. This is the foundation of your house. This is the foundation of your email marketing efforts. It's very important that your list is grown properly, organically, and the people who are on your list ask to receive your email, and most importantly, they're expecting to receive your email. Without that, your chances of hitting the inbox are greatly diminished. So number 2 here, sending great content. I mean, obviously, having a good foundation to your house is very important. You need to assemble the right list, but you need to send a good content, and content changes over time. So you need to, keep track of what's working, what doesn't, and make sure, that your open rate and your click-through rates are both high. And content is a huge part of that. So if people aren't engaged with your content, then your deliverability is going to suffer as well. Transmit your message cleanly. A lot of that comes down to CakeMail, to me. It's very important that you deal with bounces, anyone who complains, anyone who unsubscribes in a timely manner. And number 4, dealing with recipient issues. I mean, Like I said, with bounces, there are two different types of bounces: hard bounces and soft bounces. We'll get into the details in a bit, but it's very important that you handle those in a timely manner. You shouldn't keep these addresses that keep bouncing over and over again on your list. It's kind of like dead weight. It's very important to keep your list clean, deal with those over time as you send. And obviously, the more you send, the cleaner your list will be. And that ties into number 6 below, manage list hygiene. So if you're with an ESP like CakeMail, a lot of that is done, whether you know it or not, behind the scenes. We will remove addresses that don't exist, hard bounces, for you automatically. Every time you send, there's a list of the bounces that you received. And with the soft bounces as well, I mean, there's lots of different reasons for soft bouncing out there. If the person's mailbox is full, you don't generally tend to see that as much these days. A lot of the mailboxes are colossal. You couldn't fill them up in a lifetime. But it all depends if you're using a hosted domain, your own hosted mail server, that can happen. Or if you're a smaller country that doesn't, or the ISP you're using doesn't have the budget for large cloud services like that, it can happen. Tracking the results over time, number 5, that's also very important. Like I said, you need to keep track of what's working, what's not working. There's lots of different ways to do that. A/B split testing, 50-50, dynamic content. I'll get into what those mean in a sec. And obviously that comes with fine-tuning your content. So making sure that the content you're sending maintains that open rate, maintains the same click rate. And if you see it going down, then you need to think about starting to make some changes there. So we'll jump into this on the next slide, Isabel, if you want to go through. Number 1, assemble the right list. These are the different ways to opt in, or to have people opt into your list. So I'll just go through this quickly. Obviously on the green on the left is where you want to be. The more on the left, the better you are with regard to your reputation. Your brand is on the line here. To make sure you have a good online reputation. And starting with double opt-in is a good way to do that. And obviously, the further we go to the right there, those are the bad marketing practices, in red, harvesting. Those are what spammers do. So the further you can be on the left here, the better. So I'll just explain quickly what each one of these are. Double opt-in is probably the most efficient way to grow your list over time. Basically, what that does is someone will make a purchase, or someone will fill out a form, and when they hit submit, you'll automatically send that person an email. So you'll be removing bounces along the way. So if they did a typo in your form, that address will bounce, so it will stay there. It won't get added to your list as active, in other words. And in that email, you're obviously establishing a relationship. You're proving that the person that filled out the form has access to the email that they used for your form. And they have to physically go in. It takes a human action for them. They have to go into that email and click on the confirmation link. So one, you're removing bounces along the way, which gets rid of a lot of spam traps as well. I'm going a little quickly here, but spam traps are something you definitely do not want on your list. And double opt-in is a great way to do that. So when they click that confirmation link, you also record things like their name, their location, their IP address, what browser they're using. So you'll be able to use that to prove opt-in. So there's a lot of different anti-spam legislations out there, and you want to make sure that you can prove opt-in. You can prove that you have consent for the people who are on your list, should you need to. It's the onus is on you to do that. So it's very important that you use double opt-in. It's the most preferred method of growing your list in email today, email marketing. Notified opt-in, very similar, but there's no link to click. So they do make a purchase, they do receive that confirmation email. You are removing bounces along the way, but there's no actual link that they have to click. So they're automatically added as active to your list. It does give you the opportunity to remove bounces. So, if that notified email does bounce, then they shouldn't technically be active in your list, which is a good thing. It also gives you the opportunity to welcome yourself and welcome them, so they are expecting to receive your next marketing message because you've sent them that notification email. It also gives them the opportunity to add your from address in their contacts. So all of these things help to improve your inbox placement over time. Single opt-in. Very similar. They do fill out a form, but they're added automatically as soon as they hit that submit button in the form or when they make a purchase. Single opt-in doesn't necessarily send a welcome email, or there's no confirmation link there as well. There's no opportunity for you to remove bounces along the way. Single opt-in also leaves you open for people to add spam traps to your list. So it's not something that happens often, but using a single opt-in list does leave you open to that kind of abuse. There are bots out there that will target forms. So, especially if you're sending out a promotion, you're trying to entice people to sign up to your list and you're giving them a coupon or something, and you could get a lot of signups. We've definitely seen that being abused. So that's just something to keep in mind when it comes to single opt-in. Opt-out, again, you're getting a little further to the right here. Generally speaking, opt-out, is through a purchase. So, because they purchase something from you, you do have a relationship with them. You do have permission to or consent, as long as you can prove that business relationship. You do have consent to send them marketing messages, but that it's kind of using trickery. They're not really expecting to receive your email. It may not be wanted. Maybe they wanted to purchase something from you, but they really didn't want to. They're not interested in receiving marketing messages, especially 5 a week. So it's like I said, the further you go to the right here, the worse off you are. Affiliate, rented, purchase list, these are all things you want to really stay away from. There are some legal ramifications with regard to affiliate lists. Maybe they are signing up to you, but you're under some giant umbrella, and you're getting signed up to all the different affiliates that parent company is registered with or affiliated with, rather. So, there definitely may or may not be, depending on the language that's on the form, they may or not be expecting to receive your email, especially from your affiliates, especially if they don't recognize who the sender is. Rented lists, there are lists out there that you can rent to boost your list size. Obviously, you have no relationship with them. Your brand is on the line here, like I said. It's usually sent out by whoever list vendor you're using, whoever you're renting the list from. It's usually sent out on their behalf to try and promote yours. But ideally that should send people to your form, and they should willingly sign up to your form. So that's better than adding the entire rented list to your existing list. Purchase lists obviously are the very same thing, but you'll get a copy of the list. You have no relationship with those. The spam complaints go through the roof. As soon as that happens, your in-block placement gets dramatically affected. Your brand reputation goes down. The ISPs, you'll be setting off red flags on their end. You're going to start to see email going to the junk box if it shows up at all. So I strongly recommend to our clients at CakeMail to stay away from purchase list, and it actually is a violation of our anti-spam policy as well. It's something we do not allow. If you're caught using a purchase list, you will no longer be sending email with CakeMail. It's not worth it. And you're affecting the delivery of the addresses that may or may not have requested to receive email from you. So purchase list is something to definitely stay away from. Harvested is probably the worst. Basically, spammers out there will scrape the entire internet looking for whatever has an @ sign in it that looks like an email address and just blast away. They have hundreds of millions of email addresses on their lists, and none of them asked to receive the email from you. They're harvested addresses. They're scraped off the internet. So that's the worst example of a bad marketing email practice that you can probably get, is purchasing or scraping your list. So that's why they're on the far right there. Number 2. Our second slide. That first slide always takes me forever. It's a lot of talking there.
Yeah, take a bit of water. So basically, what we have to understand, it's quite easy. It's the safest and the better results the list will get is when we go to the green. So we will be protected from bad behaviors from other clients, not from other clients, but from spammers, from people that want to put wrong address in our list. And the best results we will have for the people that are actually want to be on our list. So I'll leave you the room for the second slide.
Well, I'm just kind of continuing with the same topic with regard to rented purchase. To stay away with them. They're riddled with spam traps. So spam traps are addresses out there that they exist for the sole reason of catching unwanted or unsolicited bulk email, UBE. And if you are sending to a lot of spam traps, your email address, your inbox placement will suffer. Like I said, first it'll start with emails going to the junk box, and then if you don't clean your list over time, and these spam traps are just allowed to grow and grow. And depending on where they are, I'm living through this now. Actually, there's a few addresses, a few blacklists out there. Spam House probably being one of the worst in the world. If you're listed on Spam House, you're definitely going to see a drop in your delivery. 50%, 60% of the emails you send will likely either not show up or end up in the junk box. So it's very important that you remove or avoid spam traps at all costs by, like I said, using double opt-in. Spam traps, there's no human being behind them. They're addresses that just exist for the sole reason of catching spam. They don't click links. They don't technically register and open. So if you're sending a confirmation email, a spam trap will never click on that link. So, that's a very good way of making sure spam traps do not get into your list. Same thing with list hygiene. Poor list building practices, list hygiene, harvesting purchase as list. Obviously, I've mentioned that a few times. It's not a very good practice. It's something you need to stay away from for sure. Repeat offenders are going to see more resolute blacklistings. So, if you hit the odds bad trap now and then, you may or may not get blacklisted. Like I said, it depends who you're sending to. But people move, people change jobs, people die. Companies go under, domains cease to exist. So blacklists will acquire those domains. They'll require those addresses and use them as spam traps. So if you're removing those addresses as you send, then the chances of you hitting those traps are severely depleted. So that's a very good way. So obviously, the more times you hit those spam traps, the more likely you are to get blacklisted. So we'll talk about blacklistings as well in the coming slide, and how to get off the blacklist. Here we go. How to not get blacklisted. Like I just said, use confirmed opt-in. If you take anything away from this webinar, use confirmed opt-in is probably my number one advice for a reason. It saves me a lot of headaches. And, in turn, it only benefits you, the client. So it's a very good marketing best practice. And sending on a regular basis as well. Like I said, addresses change over time. They're like telephone numbers. They don't exist forever. So, if they do bounce, you need to remove them from your list. But the only way they can bounce is if you send them on a regular basis. So in order to keep your list clean, I recommend using an ESP like Cake Mail, because we do a lot of that in the background. Like I said before, we remove bounces for you, which keeps your list clean. But the only way that's going to happen is if you send on a regular basis. So, that's rule number 3 as well. So 1, 2, 3, how to not get blacklisted, and we'll talk about how to get delisted in a moment.
Keep your list clean. Also include managing the person who wants to unsubscribe, because we always say an unsubscribe is much better than a complaint for spam by someone who wanted to be unsubscribed but didn't have the someone to react to this request.
Exactly. I see you've heard this webinar before. That's on the next slide, I believe. Unsubscribes versus complaints. So with regard to content, great content, the golden rule I tell a lot of our clients is send content people want to receive. So if they're not expecting your email, or they're not engaged with it, i.e. they're not opening or clicking on a regular basis, then your inbox placement, your deliverability will suffer as a result. Engagement is key to success. Engagement's been around for about 10 years now. Gmail was kind of the pioneer in tracking who opens and who clicks. And Gmail doesn't really block anyone. Well, they do, but more often than not, it's either going to go to one of 2 places: the spam box, which you do not want, or the inbox. Gmail has a few different tabs with their inbox, but they're all the inbox at the end of the day. So as long as you're hitting that inbox, you're doing your job.
Yeah, to
With
clarify, it's like promotion is also included in the inbox. So promotion won't influence the engagement. It's not
yeah,
like being in a spam box.
exactly. I mean, Gmail is very good at listening to their users, and they've got a lot of feedback over the years with regard to, oh, I wish I could, have all my promotional emails in one place and have all my friends' emails in one place. And they're very good at doing that. And password reset emails, all these transactional emails, they don't want them. They don't want to go looking for them. They want to click on the tab and boom, all their friends are there, and all of their coupons and marketing messages are in one place. So if you're hitting any one of the inbox tabs with Gmail, you're doing the right thing. Don't be concerned that you're in the promotions tab, because believe it or not, you're in the promotions tab because you send a lot of emails. So if you think that's a bad thing, then maybe you're in the wrong place. um, with regard to engagement, a lot of that comes down to segmenting your list. So if you're sending to people over 50, or male and female, or people who speak a certain language, or they're in a certain area of town, and personalization is also a very good way to increase engagement. So instead of saying bonjour Isabelle, or hello Fabricio, have it's better to do that than it is to have a general hello, or not any personalization at all. So, and you can do that throughout the email as well. In CakeMail, there's what's called merge tags, so you can have personalization throughout the email as well as segmenting your audience. Those are very good ways to keep your engagement high. And in that content, it's not only important that they open, but you should have a very clear call to action that ends with a click. So, I mean, it's not enough anymore. I mean, it's a good thing to have them open your email, but you really want them at the end of the day to click through to your website. I mean, that should be your end goal for everything that you send out. I mean, you want people to click through to your website. Your website is your identity, and you can say a lot more on your website. And if they're on your website, I mean, that's where you want them to be if they're going to purchase something. So have a clear call to action that ends with a click. The open tracking is not as accurate, it's not as robust as it used to be. There's a lot of with Apple's mail privacy policies that came out last year, a lot of them, if that is enabled and they're checking your email on an Apple or iPhone device, you may be tracking an open that isn't actually a human being. And same thing with Gmail. They have what's called an image prefetch. So if they are detecting a lot of email coming from the same sender, they will automatically download and keep a copy of all of the images that are in your email, not only to display them quicker to the end user, but also to prevent you, the sender, from tracking the opens as accurately. So also encourage your senders to click display images or mark you as a safe sender. All of these things will increase your deliverability and your inbox placement as a result. So maybe have something at the top of your content that mentions that. Add me to your contact list. That's another great lure. Still on content here, some quick tips and tricks. Using spammy words isn't as big or as punishing as it was 10 years ago. If your engagement is there and your consent is there and your open rate is there, the content you're sending really, isn't a big player. But you want to stay away from spammy words. Free, a lot of exclamation marks, big bold letters, like I said, big below, all caps. You don't want to start yelling. You're not sending an email to a buddy here. This is a professional marketing message. So make sure it looks accordingly. Use a clear and concise subject line. So, I mean, people should take one look at your email and know exactly where it's coming from and what it's about just by the from and the subject line. You can use bait as well. It's a very effective way to get people to open your email. And again, in the email, bait them to click through to your website. It's called clickbait. So, you'll whet their appetite with a certain topic, and then you'll finish it with a couple dots, and they'll go, oh my God, I have to click through to that. I need to learn about that. Yes. How do I save money for Christmas? Dot, dot, dot. So it's also a good idea to have a good balance of images and text. You don't want to have an image only campaign, because if that image doesn't render, they're going to see an empty box, and depending on what your name of your image is, that's all they're going to see. So it's important to have all text as well, explaining what that image but obviously there should be text in there as well. It's kind of the 70-30 rule. You know, again, you need 70% text, 30% images. Don't overdo it. You know, images are I'm very image based, so you know, I tend to be geared towards that a little more than most, but it's important to have text in there as well. No
Also,
replies. Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
Kev. Also for the mobile version. I mean, if you
Yes.
have if you have only an image that is very noisy and
Yeah.
people are trying to see it, what you're trying to explain or tell with this little image is going to be difficult. So a balance of text and image is helping a lot.
Yeah, that's a very good point. With regard to mobile, I mean, I think we did a blog post in the summer about the percentage of people that open on the mobile device. I think it's over 60% now.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least, you know, the initial time that they open, the first time that they open, you know, if they're really interested, they might go back and take a look on a bigger screen. But I mean, mobile phones are so big these days, and tablets. You know, the need for desktop or laptop computers isn't as much as it was before. But yeah, for sure. And you can also track that in your list. If you're using, you know, an ESP like CakeMail, will actually tell you, you know, if it's on a mobile device or if it's on a desktop. So you can, if you find out that 80% of your opens are on mobile, then you should probably be catering your content to be mobile based. I talk about that as well in a slide coming up. No replies. We could probably do a webinar on this alone. You know, no replies definitely have their place for password resets or, you know, invoices, transactional based, but they kind of send a message, and that message is, you know, we don't want you to reply. We don't care what you have to say. We don't want you to get back to us. Even if that no reply address works, you know, it has what did Validity call it? A spam-like characteristic. So, like I said, tend to stay away from no reply if you can, especially for marketing. It could come from a lot of different addresses. It doesn't have to come from a no reply address. Your from and your address that you're using should reflect your brand. So, you know, if it's a sales based or info based, you know, it should reflect that brand. It should all be on the same domain, and reinforce that over time. So the more people, like I said, when they receive your email right away, they should tell just by your from and your address and the subject exactly who you are, and what the email is about. So it's important to do that. Your brand is everything. It's important to protect it, and you know, that will only benefit you over time. Number 3. God, really on number 3? There's a lot of steps. You know, it's only 7, but
You will have to speed up a bit.
that's okay. It transmit messages cleanly and securely. I mentioned that at the beginning. Authentication, I haven't talked about yet. Another huge topic, can probably be a webinar on its own. There's a lot of different authentication protocols out there. SPF stands for Sender Policy Framework. Basically, what that is a text record in your DNS that lists all of the IP addresses that are allowed to send on your domain's behalf. So it's been around for years. It's important that you have that set up. If it doesn't, you know, you're kind of, not kind of, you are not following RFC, request for comment regulations. So chances are, if your SPF is not authenticating, your email is not going to hit the inbox. DKIM has been around almost 15 years now, late 2000s, I would say. It was kind of built off the framework that Yahoo did with domain keys. Domain keys aren't around anymore, but domain key identified mail is what DKIM stand for. Basically, what that is again, using your DNS, there will be a set of domain keys, one at our side, at the ESP side. So when we transmit the message, we'll send it with that key, and then the receiver will notice that it's been encrypted along in transit, and that the key is there, and it will go and look up on the client's domain, on the from domain, and see if those keys match. If they do, then DKIM will authenticate, and so will DMARC. DMARC stands for Domain Messaging Authentication Reporting and Conformance. It's a mouthful, but basically, if your SPF is working and passing, your DKIM is there and working, then you should probably think about setting up DMARC, because it works in conjunction with those two protocols. Those three are the main three methods of authentication today. I should mention, before I forget, that Gmail and Yahoo will start requiring DMARC as of February next year, February 2024. So not for all messages, it's only for bulk mailers. So if you're sending more than 5,000 messages to Gmail or to Yahoo, you know, a day, they will, and you do not have a DMARC record, you will not get delivered. So in order to set up authentication, you need, obviously you're proving to the receiver that you own that domain. So what that basically means is if you're using email marketing and you're using a gmail.com address as your from address, you will no longer be able to do that as of February next year. So it's important, if you haven't already, or if you do have your own domain, you do have your website. Most people have websites, you know, it's 2023. So why not add email onto that? Again, it will reinforce your brand, and it will allow you to authenticate your domain and improve your email delivery along the way. Respect delivery rates. A lot of that is my job. If you're using a responsible email service provider like CakeMail, we will monitor the delivery rates. Not every receiver can receive mail. Like Gmail can receive billions of messages a day, but not all ISPs are like that. So it's important, you know, if you're starting to see blocks or you're being throttled or rate limited, you'll see in the bounces. I look at that every day to try and hone our MTA to make sure that that we're not abusing, you know, trying to send too much mail too fast. So respect delivery rates. You know, if you're sending on your own, you know, it's really up to you. One of the great benefits of using an ESP is that we do that for you. Not all ISPs are the same. Like I said, different ISPs can receive different volume at different speeds. There's also, you know, connections and the amount of emails you can send per connection and how many connections per IP. So, I mean, without getting too technical, it's our job to worry about that, not yours. So if you go with CakeMail, that's one of the things that we do for you. Look at bounce replies and make adjustments. Again, that's a large part of what I do. If I see a lot of throttling or you know, a lot of blocks, that is free feedback that the ISP is sending back to me. So I need to treat that accordingly. I need to investigate why they are blocking our messages. So, you know, if it's because of a few bad apples in our network, I need to you know, ask them what they're doing. Maybe they're not using double opt-in. You know, so it's important that that we handle bounces and that we are processing those bounces properly. So there's, like I said before, there's hard bounces and there's soft bounces. Generally, with a hard bounce, they will never work. It's a permanent bounce, and they should be removed from your active list after one. Soft bounces, like I said, they can happen for any number of reasons, like a blacklisting, for example. Blacklistings are permanent. So, you know, if you're doing things right, you know, it could last, you know, a week, or it depends on where you're blacklisted. But if you are blacklisted and you try sending something, it will soft bounce if the receiver is using that blacklist to control spam in their network. So it's important that, you know, like I said, blacklistings aren't permanent. So that particular soft bounce shouldn't not, you know, invalidate or suppress that address globally, because, you know, as soon as that blacklist is removed, then that address will start receiving again. So it's important that you look at the bounces, and each, you know, there's rules out there on how to properly handle bounces and how to properly remove them from your list. Like I said, look at the feedback in your bounce logs. If there's throttling or junking or blocks, there's a reason for it, and you can't ignore it by changing your domain. You can't ignore it by using a different ISP, or sorry, a different IP address or a different ESP, because your reputation follows you. So if you're going from you know, one of our competitors to CakeMail, it's important you know, to let us know that, you know, if you did have any issues, we can work with you to resolve them. But, you know, you're not going to help anyone by trying to ignore those blocks or ignore those throttling or ignore the blacklist, because you're only shooting yourself in the foot. Choose the right ESP. CakeMail, I'm a little biased, is one of the best out there. I have a big smiley face. Like I said, I've been working with CakeMail for 15 years, so it's like a family. Dealing with recipient issues, Isabel mentioned this a few minutes ago, unsubscribe bounces and spam FBL. FBL stands for feedback loop. So again, CakeMail does a lot of this for you in the background with regard to bounces. I've mentioned that before. There's hard and soft bounces. Unsubscribes as well. So it is a requirement, given that I am in Canada, that all of our messages have a working unsubscribe link at the bottom of them. It's illegal to send marketing messages without an unsubscribe at the bottom. So it's important that those addresses get removed. So that is a recipient issue. You need to deal with those in real time. With regard to FBLs, they are people who click that little spam button at the top. So, I mean, as Isabel said, unsubscribe are much better than getting a spam complaint, because the receivers, the ISPs, will keep track of how many spam complaints they receive for you. So if cakemail.com has a spam complaint through the roof, then we're not going to get email delivered to that recipient. And it doesn't take much. I was doing the math, just double checking the math before we hopped on the call here. A lot of ISPs will flag senders who generate more than one complaint out of 1,000. So that's 0.1% is kind of the area where you want to stay below. 0.224 or 0.5%, that's one complaint in every 400 emails sent. Remember, it's not sent, it's delivered, and it's recorded at each ISP. So if you have a 0.1% complaint or complaint rate at a Hotmail, and that goes any higher, you may be great everywhere else, but your Hotmail will suffer because you're over that threshold. And different ISPs have different thresholds. So it's very important, not only that you receive that, you're signed up to the different feedback loops that are out there. Again, CakeMail will handle that for you. There's actually a service, it's called a universal feedback loop service. If you go to fbl.validity.com, you will see all of the different receivers there. There's a logo for each one. It's really pretty. You can see, so if you have a lot of the addresses on your list at those ISPs, you want to make sure that you're signed up to that universal feedback loop. And that those addresses, as soon as they hit complain, are being removed from your list. It's always better for them to unsubscribe, because the ISPs don't necessarily track unsubscribes, but they definitely track spam complaints. So you want to stay away from spam complaints as much as you can. Even maybe have that unsubscribe link at the bottom or at the top. I mean, if someone's going to unsubscribe from your list, they're going to unsubscribe anyway. So, it's far better for them to click that unsubscribe link and for you to remove them from your active list than it is for them to complain. One hurts you, one doesn't. I probably said this 5 times already. Don't use purchased and harvested or scraped lists. I won't dig any more into that, but it's very clear that capital NO. Excuse me, just got a bit of a chest cold. Bear with me. I haven't coughed too much yet. Talking a lot here, though. Obviously, having a direct relationship with every address on your list is very important. That kind of goes with them, seeing your from name and your subject line and knowing exactly who you are and what you're sending. So it's very important that you have a direct relationship with every address on your list. And confirm these signups, double opt-in. I've mentioned that 5 times as well. Auto signups, I mentioned that in the first slide. You want to put yourself in their shoes. That's why I put that adorable pair of Converse there. I love Converse. You want to make sure that they know they're expecting to receive your email. So if they've made a purchase from you, don't automatically put them on your bulk mailing list. Ask them. You can have something at the checkout process. Click here to sign up to our mailing list if you want to receive more offers. I mean, by all means, entice them to sign up, but don't sign them up automatically. It's no bueno.
I will let you I have a bit of water, Kev.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
Much better. Don't repeat mistakes. Well, I think I said that to my son yesterday. Report cards are coming up this time of year. So yeah, I mean, if something doesn't work, don't do it again. And learn from other people's mistakes. You can't make them all yourself. It's very important to look at your past results to improve the future. It goes for life as well as email marketing. Look at your open and click rates. That's very important. So you can track the results on what has worked and what hasn't worked over time, and then go with what works. Maybe sending at 9 o'clock in the morning is the best time for you. It all depends what you're promoting. If you're sending a message from Santa Claus, maybe sending it at midnight is not a very good idea, or sending in the middle of the day when they're at school. Well, maybe early in the morning or after school is the best time of day to receive a message from Santa Claus. Segment your list. Obviously, you want to target your audience. That allows you to personalize the email. Like I said before, personalization is key. So let's say you can segment. Say you're a massive pizza distributor across Canada, but you have different locations all over the place. So you can keep track of maybe their postal code or the town that they live in, and you can maybe have a promotion in a specific area. And so segmenting your list and having that data in your list allows you to do that. So I mean, I wouldn't overdo it when they do sign up to your list. You know, you're not asking them to answer 20 different questions, but well, certainly they're from or their first name. There's nothing wrong with asking that, and you know, that allows you to better personalize the email that you're sending to them. So, you know, it's win-win. And again, with the content and the results, test before sending. Like Isabel said before, if a lot of your list is on a mobile device, then you definitely want to test what it looks like on a mobile device. And there's a lot of different ones out there. So there's also dark mode.
Yeah.
My phone is in permanent dark mode. I check it, before the sun comes up. And I find my eyes they tend to get a bit sore if it's on a regular mode. So virtually all of the email that I look at on my phone is dark mode. And you can keep track of who opens on a mobile device and who opens on a desktop device. So number 6, manage list hygiene. Like I said before, choosing the right ESP is a huge part of that. You want to remove bounces in accordingly. There's no sense in sending to the same address if it's going to keep bouncing over and over and over again. That doesn't make you look very good as a sender. Unsubscribes. I mean, that as was mentioned before, it's very important that you remove unsubscribes in a timely manner. There are legal requirements with regard to unsubscribes, depending on where you live. I think that's the next slide, but we'll get into that. Complaints. Like I said before, the feedback loops that are out there, take advantage of them. That's free feedback that you're getting. So, if someone's complaining, I would treat that as an unsubscribe and remove them permanently from your list. There's no sense because, like I said, they're harming the delivery for the people who do want to receive your messages. So, remove complainers. Absolutely. There's no legal requirement to do that, but if you expect to hit the inbox, I highly recommend you sign up to all the FBLs that are available and do that accordingly. Re-engage, remove people that never open and click. This is huge. Engagement is the number one way now that ISPs like Gmail and Hotmail and Yahoo will determine your sender reputation. So if you're sending to the same people over and over and over again over months and weeks and even years, and they're never opening and clicking, guess what? They're not going to. So they're dead weight on your list. It's time to remove those people because, like I said, they're harming your delivery, they're harming your brand, and for the people who do want to receive your messages. So, and spam traps it's a good way to remove them as well. So, I mean, a spam trap may or may not have existed in the past. Like I said, a lot of blacklists out there will acquire domains that in one time did exist. So it is possible that that you have legitimate addresses that did at one time exist, many years ago, and that are now spam traps. But if you were doing your job correctly and removing bounces and removing, people who never are engaged, never open and click, then, there go the spam traps. That's another way of getting rid of and keeping your list clean. Maintaining an active list is paramount to hitting the inbox. That's in bold for a reason. Changing providers. I put this in here because, we do get the occasional sender, occasional client that's come from somewhere else, one of our competitors, and their first mailing just blows up. It's looks like a Christmas tree. There's bounces all over the place. There's complaints through the roof. So I'm going, am I keeping this client? And then I find out that they exported their entire list from another provider. So like I said, your reputation follows you. So if you do have a list or a suppression list or a list of people who've complained or unsubscribed, make sure that comes over from your other provider. Do not transfer a dirty list. It takes a long time to repair that bad reputation if that does happen to you.
I also want to make a comment about this. It's not usually like something that you want to do badly. It's sometimes you're sending, for example, from a desktop, or you're sending from Gmail, or you never used someone who automatically removed the bounces or send the feedback loops. So this list, you never actually got the information about the people who are not receiving or complaining and all those information. So it's also important to understand that it's not necessarily bad behavior. Sometimes it's just because the person didn't have the tools before to manage
Yeah.
all those information.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, a lot of companies start out by sending from, their Gmail address. It's a small company. They might have a list of 100 people. But, if they're doing things properly and their company grows, that list will get into the thousands and then the
Exactly.
hundreds of thousands. And, once it starts getting that big, you really can't use, any of the small mail providers out there. You need
Exactly. Or soundbite
to,
with Outlook or
yeah, exactly. Fine-tune content. Yeah, like I said, track your results over time. And your results should lead to improvements. You should be getting better and better with each campaign that you send. Keep track of the date and time that had the best results. I've mentioned that as well. Using hook bait and hook subject lines to try and entice people to your website, entice people to open your message. A very effective way of marketing. Like I said before, A/B split and 50-50. So these two methods of content are very interesting. So they basically what A/B split is, you'll send 10% of your list one email, you'll send 10% of another 10% of your list another email, and then automatically in the background, magic, sprinkle dust, it will automatically track which of those two mailings performed the best, and the remaining 80% of your list will be sent that mailing. So it's a fantastic way of you not only to send two messages instead of one, but you'll be able to track which one does better and which one performs better, and your content will only improve over time if you use that. And 50-50 is the same thing, but you're sending 50% of your email or of your list one email and 50% of your list the other email. I mean, it's still good, but it doesn't take advantage of that A/B split, and track your performance over time. Dynamic content, like I said before, with that pizza reference, you might have a promotion in a certain in a certain location. So having dynamic content, and you can actually have that dynamic content in Cake Mail in the body of the email itself. It's not just dear Isabel at the top. You can have links and images can be dynamic for that particular person. So
and we can display an image in either content, in either, for example, language. A part of the content will be displayed in English and the other part of the for the English people, or it will be displayed in French from the French person. So if you have this information about the recipient, sending them content in their own language is very helpful.
Yeah, it all comes down to personalizing the content. It's a great time to be alive. It's the last 10 years in this industry have been really, really fascinating with regard to authentication and BIMI and dynamic content and A/B split. All of this is new. So at the end of the day, it increases your ROI, which is what we're all here for. Getting back to the nitty gritty here with regard to legal requirements, Cake Mail is, like I mentioned, in Canada. So we are required by law to adhere to the Canadian anti-spam legislation. That's what CASHL stands for. And there are requirements with regard to consent. Like I said before, the onus is on you, the sender, to prove consent. Cake Mail will help you do that if you're using one of our forms. But if you're not, like I said, you need to keep track of that information. With regard to CASL, there are two methods of opt-in. There's express opt-in or express consent and implied. So express is if they say fill out a form and they check a box. Yes, I want to receive something from you. And, it's very user-based, and it allows you to record, like I said before, in that confirmation email, their location, their name, their email address, even the browser they're using or the version of Windows that they're using, and so all of that can be used to prove consent. So you'll have a record of when that person clicked on that confirmation link. Should the authorities come and ask for it. With implied is a little different. Say you were to purchase something, there is a business relationship there. As long as you can prove that business relationship, implied consent is different in that it expires. Express consent never expires. Implied has a shelf life of about 2 years. So you have 2 years to either get express consent from that person or 2 years of sending them marketing messages. And if they don't unsubscribe, they need to be removed after 2 years. So you really want to get that express consent. Like I said before, it doesn't expire. Getting towards the end here, our unsubscribe requirements, like I said before, if we're required by law to have that unsubscribe link in every marketing message that we send, that link has to be processed within 10 business days. And that actual link needs to work for 60 days after that message was received. There can be no login. There can be no cost involved in unsubscribing. Removal should be as easy as it was to sign up.
It's
Like
not
I
always
said,
the case.
yeah,
Sometimes we have
like
to do a few steps to be able, and it's not a good practice.
yeah, it's so frustrating. Sometimes I click that unsubscribe link and it gives me an empty box and asks me to enter my email address. I mean, you sent it to me. Obviously, you know my email address. It's so easy for them to pre-populate that. But anyway, I always find that they're trying to get me to mess up and add a one of my other email addresses in there. So they have two of my addresses now, or they consider that anyway. Yeah, like I said, removal should be as easy as it is to sign up. So don't make it hard. Don't hide that unsubscribe link at the bottom. Don't, put it, white font on a white background. That's actually illegal. But like I said, it should be very easy to unsubscribe. They're going to unsubscribe anyway. So make sure it's easy so they don't complain. Postal addresses. This is also a requirement of Castle. It's important that they have a different method of different way of contacting you. So including that postal address at the bottom is a requirement, just to say proof you are who you say you are. Don't use false or misleading header information. This is a requirement of CAN-SPAM in the States, and also a lot of anti-spam legislation out there. But a lot of spammers will use this method. They'll pretend to come from Bill Gates at Microsoft.com when obviously they're not, or the guy at Facebook, because of my cold, I can't remember his name right now. But that happens often. So using an email address or falsifying header information to try and get your message opened is illegal. Don't use deceptive subject lines. The subject line should say exactly what the message is about. You can't say one thing and then the content's completely different. Say you're sending a message about Santa Claus, and then the content of your message is, something adult in nature, or
A bank.
a bank. Yeah, exactly. I mean, God, how many messages have we got since COVID about either there's a package waiting for me, I need to enter my banking information to pay $1.50, the COD charges, or we're going to close your account at your bank because we've detected fraudulent. Please click to this crazy website and give us all your bank information so we can empty your bank account. I actually know people who've fallen for that. It's a big shame. They're retired and they lose half their savings. It's horrible, but these are hard times, so people will do crazy things and try and make a buck any way they can, whether it's legal or not. From your side, depending on where you are in the world, there are different anti-spam legislations out there. CAN-SPAM is in the States, Castle's in Canada. GDPR is one that came out a few years ago in Europe, and there's actually one for the UK as well, the UK GDPR that came out since Brexit. So it's important that you familiarize yourself with wherever the corner of the world that you are, and make sure that you follow those requirements, because it's up to you, the sender, to do that. Don't let others damage your delivery. This is very timely with Black Friday coming up. Don't make mistakes this time of year just because you want to send a whole bunch of email or use a list that was from 2 years ago. I mean, a lot of people do this, or sending to a list of people who've complained, or pretending they didn't unsubscribe. I mean, there's a whole legal ramification with that, like I mentioned. But avoid using purchase lists. Don't reactivate people who are inactive or previously bounced. If you send to a list of an address or a ton of addresses that are hard bounced, I mean, guess what? Nothing's going to change. That address isn't magically going to want to receive your messages, let alone open or click on it. And you use your lists on a regular basis. If you haven't sent something in 12 months, you might want to try and re-engage those people. Maybe don't push a marketing messages in their face right away. Try and keep your list as engaged and clean as possible. And cadence is also really important, especially this time of year. If you're have a history of sending one message a month or one message a week, guess what? They're used to that. They don't want to receive 5 emails. They might expect to receive a few more promotions this time of year, given Christmas and the holidays and everything, and Thanksgiving in the States, but don't overdo it. Use double opt-in. Oh, I've never heard that before. It's in bold. Very important. Don't auto sign up through purchase. So even though you have a business relationship there, they may or not want to receive email from you. I like using the mattress example, or any large ticket item like that, like a car. When you go and buy a mattress, it's not something that you buy all the time. So once you've purchased, or you've just purchased your bed, you don't want to purchase another one unless you work at a hotel or something. I mean, don't sign up someone to receive a promotion for a mattress when they just bought one. It
But
doesn't make
ask them
sense.
if they want new pillow, though. You can
Yeah,
ask them.
absolutely. No stranger here to reputation. Warren Buffett, he knows a lot about, not just about money, but reputation. It takes years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin that. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. Thanks, Warren. That's very good advice. Questions
Thanks a
out there,
lot.
anyone?
Yeah, I already have. There's a question about the where to find the list of the spam feedback loop. Actually, we will put that the link. I will add the link to the email that I will send to you with the video. So it's going to be easier. But this is a good question
Yeah, feedback loops are very
about.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
the
mentioned that
yeah, you
universal
gave
one
you
with validity, but yeah, we'll list them all in there.
exact
Yeah.
exactly. So it's going to be easier to have them in the email. I have a bit of a question. You talked a lot to not go on a blacklist, to do everything to avoid a blacklist. But what's happening when we actually receive an email that we're blacklisted? Is it like the end of this list? Is it something that we can go? I know a bit of the answer, but I would like you to answer.
Well, I mean, knowing you're blacklisted is the number one step. Not everyone knows that. I mean, you need to take a look at your bounces, and if people start complaining that they're not receiving your emails, you need to take a look at why. You can also enter your domain into blacklist lookups. If you Google RBL, it's real time blacklist, or there's a few lookups out there. You can look for your IP address. You can look for your domain. Basically, blacklists will list either one or both of those two things, depending on how bad the situation is. But if you are blacklisted, the most important thing is not to panic. We can contact our support team too. We're also we can answer all of your questions with regard to that. But in the short, you need to back off. You need to find out where the problem is and fix it. That's my advice when it comes to getting blacklisted. Find out where you're blacklisted, and take a handle of the situation, take control of it, and be honest with them. Let them know you made a mistake. Maybe you weren't using double opt-in, or maybe you reactivated an old list. The mistakes do happen. They understand that, but as long as it's not something that keeps happening over and over again, then they are more than willing to work with responsible senders. I can attest to that.
I have a question here, and it's an interesting question. Is it better to just write a few sentences and add links to read more instead of writing the info directly in the email, like more than 400 characters? On my side, it depends on the content. I mean, if it's like a promotion, or you want to have people click to have more information, actually it depends on the level of information that is on the website. If it's, for example, a blog post, obviously you would like to give a little bit of information, and then the people would click to access the whole blog post, because it would make it interesting, but they're not necessarily ready to read it now, or to read it. For example, we were talking about the phone versus the computer. They might have a view of it and say, okay, I will read it later on my tablet or on my computer. If it's a promotion, if, for example, you have it in different colors, you have it in different size, and they need to make choices, I would say, obviously, you put a bit of the information, you tease them to click, and then they will have to interact with your website to get more information. Kevin, maybe you have more
Yeah,
information
well,
about
I
this?
just to add on that, I mean, there's loads of studies out there. If you look at litmus.com on how many seconds the average person looks at your email. So you want to make sure that there's a term in the industry called above the fold. It goes back to how newspapers used to be folded. So you want to make sure that everything on your main page, the first, couple inches of your
Green.
message, is sending or saying the bulk of your message, the bulk of what you're trying to express yourself. But you always want to try and get people to click through to your website. I mean, that's the end goal at the end of the day. You can see a lot more on your website. There's a lot more, dynamic HTML and all that stuff with regard to which you can't do in email. So, build the right list, send an email, and get them to your website. Those are that's your goal. You'll see the largest return on investment for if you follow those steps.
And when we were
Good question.
talking about and when we're talking about the click, the incentive to click, if you have a little less content, but you have different content, a person might not be interested in one of your content, but might be interested in another one of your content. So basically what we do is we put the most important on the top, and then we go down, as Kevin said, and you will feel it by what you're living with your phone when you're reading emails. We have a very short attention span, so you can be more catchy on your email, and then drive them to your website for more information.
Every sender is different. All different industries are different, and track what works for you. That's what I tell a lot of our customers. So
A/B split test would be a good try in this exercise. You can have exactly the same content, present it like shorter one, longer one, and see what makes the best interaction for you. GDPR, Sweden here. Hi, Sweden. How about GDPR? Is Kickmail GDPR compliant, Kev?
Yes, absolutely. We have customers in the UK and in the EU, so we are required, not only with regard to data privacy, but also with the consent requirements around GDPR. They're very similar to what we have in Canada. You can't send messages blindly to people who didn't request or didn't give consent, so it's very important. Yeah, absolutely. We need to be compliant not only in Europe and in North America, but all over the world. There's different anti-spam legislations out there, and it's our job to make sure that we stay on top of them. And our biggest job is to coach clients on being compliant. So it's one of the big hats that I wear.
Okay. About we talked a bit about the DMARC. We already used more of your time that we were supposed to. So what I would do is Kevin talked a bit about this. I would encourage you to look at our blog post. We talked a bit about this. This is going to be more and more important especially for the big email providers, and we will need our clients. You will need to be compliant and use that, because it's going to get the more and more difficult to reach your readers inbox by not having all these things. I know sometimes it can be painful. We have a team here who is helping, and sometimes it's difficult because you need to do things on the server or have someone do things on your server for you, but we can see it by the results. All those authentication things are getting almost requirement. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, it might be a little technical at the beginning, but once it's done, it's done. I mean, the DNS records, unless you're hacked or something, they're not going to change. So, as long as you stay on top of that, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Our support team is open 24/7. If you go to or email support@kickmail.com. We have blog posts, we have a knowledge base as well, and authentication is not going anywhere. So if you're curious about authentication, now is a good time to ask, especially with the changes coming out. So like I mentioned, you will no longer be able to use a Yahoo or a Gmail address as of February 2024. So if you are one of those people right now, and you do have your own domain, if you don't have your own domain, now's the time to get one. But if you don't, if you do, then you need to think about setting up authentication. So it's a way of distinguishing you from the spammers in the eyes of the receiving ISP. So in order to be a responsible sender, you should not only build the right list and send good content, but make sure that you're authenticated and you are who you say you are. And that is a very good way for you to do that.
So I will add a few links.
Losing my voice.
I will leave you. So I will add a few links about this also in the email with the video and the material. So thanks a lot to everyone who has joined us today. And thanks a lot to all the people who will watch this video later recording. And thank you. Thank you for attention and your question.
Merci,
Bye-bye.
Isabelle. It's always a treasure. Yeah,
Yeah, I know I'm a treasure, but it's always a pleasure.
it's always nice to see you and your background. I love it.
Bye bye.
Have a
Merci tout
great
le
day,
monde.
everyone. Thanks for
Bye.
being here.